My wife said she is going to start spanking our children after the divorce, and I'm devastated. I, 41 male, am currently trying to save my marriage with my wife, 35 female. Tilt your phone and subscribe. We have been married for 9 years and have 2 children, 7 male and 4 female. Our marriage has been rocky for a while. Things got much worse after our daughter was born, and it has been a downward spiral since then. We're still seeing a marriage counselor, but I've hit the point where I am fairly confident there is no way to save our marriage. I refuse to give up because at the end of the day, I still love my wife and I want to keep our family together. We did a temporary separation that only lasted a month before she asked me to return to help with the kids, so for the last year, I've been sleeping in the guest room so we can co-parent. We're practically roommates now, and I know I should just accept that it is over, but I'm still holding on to a glimmer of hope. That glimmer of hope fades more every day. My wife is a completely different person now compared to when we got married. I've compromised and gritted my teeth along the way. The first major issue we had was cigarettes. My wife didn't smoke when we got married. She told me she smoked in her teens, but quit. Smoking was an enormous deal breaker for me. Both of my parents smoked. I hated it. It became revolting and disgusting to the point that after I moved out of my parents' house, I would get ill if I smelled cigarette smoke. After I noticed the smell on her early in our marriage, I confronted her and she admitted she occasionally had a cigarette at work, which turned into occasionally having one at home to full-fledged smoking. She would shower, brush her teeth, gargle mouthwash, and I still had to hold my breath when we had sex, but I tried to be understanding. I tried to help her quit. Vaping, gum, patches. They all led back to cigarettes. She quit when we decided to try for a baby, then started again, and I wanted to hold off on continuing to try because of it. But guess what? Already pregnant. The doctor put her on a 6-week plan to wean her off cigarettes, which resulted in her smoking heavily while pregnant for 6 weeks, then being unable to quit, and she smoked off and on throughout the pregnancy. Thankfully, our son does not appear to have suffered any ill effects, but who really knows? Our daughter wasn't planned. My wife had an implant and it failed. My wife made a better effort not to smoke while she was pregnant with our daughter, but she still did it. My daughter has some health issues like asthma, a weak immune system, and she's small for her age, which I believe are related to my wife smoking while pregnant, but the doctors won't come out and say it. The second major issue was alcohol. My wife isn't an alcoholic because alcohol just knocks her out. She might get midway through her second glass of wine before she falls asleep, but she's often asleep before she finishes her first glass. I don't care if she has a glass of wine before bed. I was fine with that. If it helps her sleep, great. The problems came when she started having a glass of wine as soon as she got home from work, meaning she would be asleep on the couch before dinner. She may or may not wake up to eat dinner, but if she does, she's asleep on the couch right after. To her credit, she's not blackout drunk or anything. If one of the kids cries or makes noise, she'll wake up, but usually just to yell for me to deal with it, which I'm already in the process of doing 99.9% of the time. During the month we were separated, the kids didn't go to bathed at bath time. They didn't go to bed on time. She'd feed them, fall asleep, and put them to bed whenever she woke up. Sometimes that was 10-11 at night, and the oldest would have already put our daughter and himself to bed. My son is the one who told me this, and it was part of my decision to return so we could co-parent. There have been a host of other problems. In therapy, she always brings up the fact she has never cheated, which in her eyes makes her a saint. I haven't cheated either, for the record, but I'm not worthy of sainthood, I guess. 3 months ago, we talked to a lawyer and started looking at what life would be like if we moved forward with the divorce, which led to us each getting our own lawyer. We're slowly peeling the Band-Aid off our marriage. It is a stop-go, stop-go, stop process. We're officially still working on it while discussing the terms. It's frustrating and heartbreaking, but I will not give up unless she does. Despite everything, I still love her. I still smile when I see her taking care of our kids. Sometimes we have little moments at a family that makes me believe we can overcome everything, but that hope is usually extinguished by another fight. My wife had started saying after the divorce a lot more frequently now, rather than if we get divorced, which makes me believe she's already decided. She still won't come out and say it when I confront her. I'm probably going to find out when I get served with divorce papers. Our latest fight has devastated me in a way nothing else has. 2 weeks ago, my wife was putting our daughter to bed, and our daughter was being difficult. I walked upstairs to see if I could help, and overheard her tell her daughter, "You're lucky Daddy is here, because if he wasn't, you would be getting a spanking for this." This upset me a lot. I was spanked as a child and suffered some trauma as a result that still haunts me to this day. My parents weren't cruel, but I essentially hated them both for it. My dad, because he spanked me, and my mom because she let it happen. I have always had extreme pain sensitivity. Or maybe I'm a wuss, but spankings were excruciating. I would scream and cry during them, which would infuriate my father, who would say I needed to be toughened up, so he would spank me even longer for not taking my punishment like a man. I've been no contact with both of my parents since I left home, and that is the sole reason for it. My sister got it just as bad as I did, and she suffered no ill effects. In fact, she is grateful to our parents for punishing her like that. She's the type that posts "thank you for using the belt" memes on Facebook, which make my skin crawl. After my wife came downstairs, I confronted her about what I overheard. We discussed this before we got married, agreed there would be absolutely no hitting if we had children, and a few parenting conversations over the years has reinforced that. She's never brought it up before, or even hinted that she considered it an appropriate form of discipline. During the fight, she told me point blank that she plans to start spanking both of our children after the divorce, because in her words, it will do both of them some good, and they have to listen when I tell them something, especially if I have to do this alone after the divorce. I had an emotional reaction to it. I said I would never let her do it, said I would fight for full custody, reminded her of my trauma, etc. She was very cold about it all, said she had made her decision, and nothing I said would change her mind. My lawyer set me straight the next day. There is absolutely no way a judge would agree to give me full custody over my wife's decision to spank the children. In fact, spanking your children is perfectly legal, and while I can decide not to do it when they are with me, there is nothing I can do to prevent it from happening while they are with her. It is only considered child abuse if she injures them in some way, and my lawyer showed me some court cases about it. In one of those cases, the child had bruising on their buttocks legs from being spanked, and the judge still ruled. It wasn't excessive or abusive. I've barely slept since talking to my lawyer almost 2 weeks ago, barely eaten. This has brought back all of the childhood trauma I put in the past when I left home and got over with therapy. I've never felt like more of a failure as a parent than I do right now. After the fight, my wife has started bringing spankings up a lot more often and threatening both of the children with it. My daughter came to me crying a few days ago asking if Mommy would really spank her, and I wanted to tell her it would never happen or that I would die before I let it happen, but I couldn't. All I could do was hug her and try not to cry myself. I'm at the point where I want to give my wife absolutely everything. The house, both cars, every penny in our bank account, and my retirement accounts, under the one condition that she'll never spank the kids. My lawyer said it could be written into the divorce agreement if we both agreed to it, but it is clear my wife is not going to agree. My lawyer says this isn't the hill to die on, no matter how strongly I feel about it. I've come to terms with the fact that outside of fleeing the country with my kids, there is no way to protect them from this if the divorce goes through. I'm going to keep fighting to save my marriage because I won't give up on it, and I won't give up on my kids. They're already suffering emotionally, and there isn't much I can do about that outside of therapy. They're going to be traumatized, whether we get divorced or not. Either emotional trauma from the slow peeling of the Band-Aid or physical trauma from what will happen after it is over. If it happens, I'll take care of them the best I can until they're old enough for the courts to let them choose which parent to stay with. My lawyer says they can make that decision at 14. Chances are they'll hate me by that point for not protecting them, just like I hate my mom for not protecting me from my dad, but I'll do the best I can. I told my lawyer to halt everything on my end regarding the divorce. At this point, the only way it goes through is if my wife forces it. So, every day that goes by without getting surprised by divorce papers is a blessing I'll count. Am I a monster if I have a glass of wine waiting on her when she gets off work today? Probably, but there will be one on the counter. If she's asleep, we aren't fighting. The kids aren't being threatened. She only seems to call her lawyer after we fight over something, so one day at a time, I guess. My thoughts. She could still be dealing with alcoholism if she drinks to the point of passing out while the children are awake and need supervision. Consider scenarios where she's asleep while the youngest child climbs onto a table or engages in other potentially dangerous activities. Make sure to document everything, including threats of spanking, your child's fear, and instances where she's passed out from drinking wine and neglecting supervision. Seek second opinions from another lawyer and consider relocating to a state with different laws regarding spanking without disclosing the reason to your spouse. Continue documenting even if it feels like it's not making a difference. If you're served legal papers and have to leave the house, she might escalate. Having a record of her escalating behavior will be crucial. I'm sorry you're going through this, OP. You come across as a wonderful and caring father. This battle might be long, but keep fighting for your children's well-being. Catch you in the next video.